Imagine walking through the ruins of a prison where the most wanted man in the world once lived like a king. The concrete walls are cracking, vines crawl through shattered windows. Rain pools where a jacuzzi once bubbled with champagne. This is La Catedral, Pablo Escobar's self-designed prison that cost $63 million to build and operate. That's more than Colombia's entire education budget at the time, while teachers earned $200 a month. But here's what the world didn't know. This wasn't a prison at all. It was the headquarters of a $30 billion empire funded by taxpayers who believed they were paying for justice. From these marble corridors, Escobar coordinated cocaine shipments worth billions, while government guards protected him around the clock. He conducted executions during visiting hours. He held board meetings during exercise time. He turned surrender into the ultimate business strategy. For 18 months, the Colombian government didn't just house their most dangerous criminal. They became his security contractors. Every phone call was paid for by the state. Every meal cost more than a worker's monthly salary. Every day generated $5.7 million in drug revenue, while officials filed reports about successful rehabilitation. Today, we're opening the classified files on the most expensive lie ever told. We're following the money trail that shows how one man convinced an entire nation to build him a palace and call it a cage. This is the forensic breakdown of La Catedral, where the line between justice and crime didn't just blur, it disappeared completely. If you're ready to see how institutions designed to contain evil can become the engines that amplify it, then you're in the right place. Let's begin. The ruins emerge from the fog like broken teeth. 30 years after Pablo Escobar walked free from his self-designed prison, the concrete walls of La Catedral still stand, but barely. Vines crawl through shattered windows, rain pools in what was once a jacuzzi, and somewhere in these decaying corridors, you can still hear the echo of the most expensive lie ever told. This is the story of how the world's most wanted man convinced a government to build him a palace and call it a cage. June 1991, the mountains above Medellin. Pablo Escobar stands on a ridge, surveying 20 hectares of green pasture that will become his kingdom. The altitude here is 100 meters above sea level, high enough that morning fog rolls in like clockwork, thick enough to hide helicopters. Far enough from the city that screams, "Don't carry," but close enough that a 15-minute drive puts you back in civilization. Escobar has chosen this land with the precision of a general positioning artillery. 3 natural escape routes wind through coffee plantations toward the Magdalena River. The topography creates a bowl, defensible on 3 sides, with commanding views of every approach road. And there's something else. Something that makes Escobar smile as he kicks at the red earth. This land belonged to the Catholic Church, a retreat center where priests came to pray and find salvation. Now it will become something else entirely, a place where the devil himself will negotiate the terms of his own damnation. The irony is not lost on him. 2 weeks later, in a nondescript office building in Bogotá, government negotiator Rafael Pardo receives an envelope with no return address. Inside, a hand-drawn map of the Envigado property, sketched in blue ink on expensive paper. The lines are precise, almost architectural. Elevation markers, sight lines, measurements down to the meter. At the bottom, a note in Escobar's handwriting. "These are my specifications." Pardo stares at the map for a long moment. He has negotiated ceasefires with guerrilla commanders and territorial agreements with paramilitary leaders, but he has never received surrender terms drawn by the criminal himself. The map shows not just a location, but a vision. Guard towers positioned below the main structure, giving the prisoner higher ground than his captors. Walls thick enough to stop tank rounds. Gates that lock from the inside. This is not a prison being designed. This is a fortress. But Pardo has his orders. President Cesar Gaviria needs Pablo Escobar behind bars, any bars, before the Americans lose patience and invade Colombia to capture him themselves. The extradition threat has pushed the country to the edge of civil war. Car bombs explode weekly in Bogotá. Judges sleep with machine guns beside their beds. The Colombian Constitution has been rewritten twice in 2 years, each time with one goal: prevent Pablo Escobar from being shipped to a Miami courtroom. Article 35 of the new Constitution is crystal clear. No Colombian can be extradited to face foreign justice. But there's a catch written in legal fine print. The protection only applies if the criminal surrenders voluntarily to Colombian custody first. Escobar knows this. He wrote it. The negotiation takes place in a private club in northern Bogotá, the kind of place where cabinet ministers and oil executives discuss the future over cognac and Cuban cigars. Escobar doesn't attend personally. He sends his lawyers, 3 men in Italian suits carrying briefcases full of architectural blueprints. Their demands are specific: cell walls 30 centimeters thick, reinforced with steel rebar, temperature control systems, satellite communication capabilities, a visitor capacity for 300 people simultaneously. The government delegation listens in stunned silence as the lawyers explain that their client will require a soccer field, conference rooms, and accommodations for his security detail. This is a prison, Pardo reminds them, not a country club. The lead attorney, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, doesn't blink. My client is surrendering voluntarily to Colombian justice. These are his minimum requirements for ensuring his safety in custody. Without these guarantees, he will remain in hiding indefinitely. The math is simple. Every day, Escobar remains free. His cartel generates $15 million in revenue. Every week of delay costs the government $50 million in military operations. Every month pushes Colombia closer to being declared a narco state by the international community. President Gaviria signs the decree on a Tuesday afternoon in late June. The document is 47 pages long, but the crucial clause fits in a single sentence. The convicted party will be housed in a facility designed to meet specialized security requirements as determined by the Ministry of Justice in consultation with relevant parties. Relevant parties. That's what they're calling Pablo Escobar now. By the time the ink dries on the presidential signature, concrete mixers are already rumbling up the mountain roads toward Envigado. The construction begins at dawn on July 15, 1991. 200 workers arrive in unmarked trucks, carrying steel beams disguised as furniture deliveries and concrete mixers painted to look like garbage trucks. They work in 12-hour shifts under armed guard, not government guards, but Escobar's men, ensuring that no detail of the construction leaks to rival cartels or American intelligence. The blueprints are distributed on a need-to-know basis. Foundation crews don't see electrical plans. Electricians don't see plumbing schematics. Only one man has the complete architectural vision, and he reviews every detail from his hiding place in a safe house overlooking the construction site. The foundation alone requires 800 cubic meters of concrete, enough to build a small skyscraper. Steel reinforcement rods are welded into geometric patterns that would make a nuclear bunker jealous. The walls rise at a rate of 2 meters per week, each layer cured with industrial heaters to eliminate any structural weakness. But it's the details that reveal Escobar's genius. The guard towers are positioned below the main complex, violating every principle of prison security. The communication lines run through a central hub that can be controlled from the prisoners' quarters. The visitor parking area holds more vehicles than most shopping malls. The construction supervisor, a barrel-chested engineer named Carlos Henao, keeps meticulous records in a leather-bound ledger. Steel costs, $400,000. Concrete, $200,000. Electrical systems, $300,000. Labor, $600,000. Transportation and security, $1 million. Total construction cost, $8,400,000. Paid in cash. Delivered in duffel bags every Friday afternoon by men in suits who never gave their names. To put this in perspective, $8 million was more than the annual municipal budget for Envigado. It was double the salary of Colombia's president. It was enough to build 12 standard maximum security prisons. But this was never meant to be standard. On a humid Tuesday in September, a government inspector named Jorge Velázquez climbs the winding road to review the facility before final approval. He has inspected 43 correctional facilities in his career, from minimum security work farms to the medieval dungeons of La Modelo prison in Bogotá. He thinks he knows what a prison looks like. He is wrong. The first thing that strikes him is the view. From the main entrance, you can see the entire Aburrá Valley spread below like a green carpet, with Medellin glittering in the distance. This is a penthouse view, the kind wealthy people pay millions to wake up to every morning. The entrance gate is solid steel, 3 meters high, with electronic locks and an intercom system. But as Velázquez examines the mechanism, he realizes something strange. The locks operate from both sides. This isn't a prison gate designed to keep people in. It's a fortified entrance designed to keep unwanted visitors out. Inside, the corridors are wide enough for 2 vehicles to pass side by side. The floors are polished marble. Recessed lighting creates a warm, almost residential atmosphere. Conference rooms overlook the valley through floor-to-ceiling windows. Each window frame cost more than a Colombian teacher's annual salary. Velázquez's inspection checklist has 43 security requirements for a maximum security facility. As he moves through the complex, he checks them off one by one. Guard stations, present. Perimeter security, adequate. Cell specifications, exceed standards. But something feels wrong. The guard towers have no guards. The security checkpoint has no metal detectors. The visiting rooms are larger than most restaurant dining areas, with private alcoves that can't be monitored from central security stations. In his final report, Velázquez writes, "Facility meets all technical requirements for housing a high-value prisoner in secure conditions." He signs his name with a Mont Blanc pen, not knowing he has just approved the most expensive criminal headquarters ever built. 3 days later, his report reaches President Gaviria's desk with a yellow sticky note attached. Ready for occupancy. June 19, 1991, 2:47 p.m. A convoy of 15 black SUVs winds up the mountain road toward La Catedral. In the lead vehicle, Pablo Escobar adjusts his tie and watches the approaching walls of his self-designed prison through bulletproof glass. He has not seen these walls since construction began, but he knows every detail by heart. Every room, every corridor, every secret passage. Behind him, 12 of his closest associates prepare for what the world will call a surrender. They know better. This is a relocation, a change of office address. Nothing more. The media circus is already in position. 200 journalists crowd behind police barriers, their cameras focused on the prison gate. Television satellites broadcast the surrender live across Latin America and into American living rooms. The caption on CNN reads, "World's Most Wanted Drug Lord Surrenders to Colombian Justice." The convoy stops at the main gate. Escobar steps out wearing a white guayabera and leather shoes that cost more than most Colombians earn in a year. He walks slowly toward the entrance, hands at his sides, his expression calm and almost bored. Behind him, his men carry leather suitcases and garment bags, as if checking into a luxury hotel. The prison warden, a nervous man named Luis Jorge Pataquiva, waits at the entrance with a manila folder containing intake paperwork. He has run 3 correctional facilities without incident, but he has never processed a prisoner who designed his own cell. "Welcome to La Catedral," Pataquiva says, his voice barely audible above the helicopter rotors overhead. Escobar nods politely. "Thank you. I think I'm going to like it here." The intake process takes 47 minutes. Fingerprints, photographs, medical examination, property inventory, standard procedure, followed to the letter. But the property list reveals the nature of this imprisonment. 23 custom-tailored suits, 14 pairs of handmade Italian shoes, a collection of wristwatches worth more than the prison's annual operating budget. His cell is a suite with panoramic windows, a private bathroom with gold-plated fixtures, and a king-size bed with Egyptian cotton sheets. The mess hall, where he will eat his prison meals, is a formal dining room with seating for 36 people. The exercise yard is a regulation soccer field with professional-grade lighting. That first night, the kitchen staff prepares Escobar's dinner according to a menu he submitted during the intake process. Caribbean lobster flown in that morning from Cartagena, French wine from his private collection, and a birthday cake for his son who is celebrating his 14th birthday in Medellin. The meal costs $437. For perspective, the daily food budget for all other prisoners in the Colombian correctional system is $8 per person. The birthday cake alone costs more than a minimum wage worker earns in a month. As Escobar cuts the cake in his cell, federal agents in Miami update their files. Pablo Escobar. Status changed from fugitive to incarcerated. Case closed. But in a secure conference room beneath La Catedral, Escobar's communications specialist installs a satellite phone system with direct lines to cartel operations in Mexico, Bolivia, and the United States. The first call goes out at 11:47 p.m., exactly 9 hours after his surrender. "Good evening," he says into the encrypted handset. "This is Pablo. I'm calling from prison." On the other end of the line, his lieutenant in Miami confirms receipt of a cocaine shipment worth $12 million. Business as usual. The world's most expensive criminal rehabilitation program has officially begun. The morning routine at La Catedral begins at 6 a.m. with what the official prison schedule calls physical exercise. In reality, it's a cocaine production meeting disguised as a morning jog around the soccer field. Escobar's lieutenants arrive through the main gate carrying gym bags filled with financial ledgers instead of workout clothes. The guards wave them through without inspection. These men are listed as spiritual advisors in the visitor log. By 7 a.m., the first helicopter of the day lands on the facility's helipad, officially designated for emergency medical transport. The pilot delivers briefcases containing cash receipts from overnight drug sales in New York and Los Angeles. The money is counted in what the prison administration calls the library, a room with no books but plenty of counting machines. Breakfast is served at 8 a.m. sharp in the main dining hall. Escobar sits at the head of a mahogany table that seats 24 people, reviewing overnight reports while eating eggs Benedict prepared by a chef imported from Bogotá's most expensive restaurant. The chef's salary, paid by the prison food budget, is higher than that of Colombia's Supreme Court justices. The morning visitor log tells the real story. On a typical Tuesday in August 1991, La Catedral receives 57 guests between 9 a.m. and noon. Their official designations: lawyers, family members, and religious counselors. Their actual identities: cartel accountants, weapons suppliers, and international cocaine buyers from Mexico and the United States. The economics are staggering. During Escobar's first month of imprisonment, La Catedral generates $2.3 billion in drug revenue, making it the most profitable government facility in Colombian history. The operation runs with the efficiency of a multinational corporation, which is exactly what it is. At 10 a.m., in what the prison schedule calls vocational training, Escobar conducts business meetings in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Aburrá Valley. The room contains a speakerphone system with direct lines to cartel operations in 12 countries. Wall-mounted whiteboards display shipping routes, profit margins, and assassination schedules written in code that looks like inventory management. The meeting agenda for August 15, 1991, preserved in cartel archives discovered years later, includes 3 agenda items: expanding cocaine production in Peru by 40%, eliminating 7 potential government witnesses, and planning his son's quinceañera celebration. The first 2 items receive equal weight. The third gets twice as much discussion time. Lunch is served at noon in private alcoves that can't be monitored from central security. Today's menu: fresh salmon flown in from Norway, accompanied by wine from Escobar's private vineyard in France. The meal costs $862, more than most Colombian families spend on food in 6 months. But it's during these private meals that the real business occurs. Escobar meets individually with cartel division heads, reviewing financial reports and issuing orders for operations spanning 3 continents. The salmon is imported, but the decisions being made over lunch will determine cocaine prices in Miami nightclubs and European fashion districts. The visitor capacity becomes clear during afternoon family time. La Catedral can accommodate 300 people simultaneously, larger than most luxury hotels in Medellin. On busy days, the parking area resembles a car dealership specializing in armored vehicles: bulletproof Mercedes, reinforced Range Rovers, and anonymous sedans with diplomatic plates. The afternoon shift brings a different category of visitor. Women arrive for what prison records list as conjugal visits, but the frequency suggests something beyond marital relations. Between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m., an average of 40 women pass through the gates. Some stay for hours. Others leave within minutes, carrying small packages that guards are instructed never to inspect. Intelligence reports later reveal these women are couriers, carrying encoded messages and payment authorizations to cartel operations throughout Colombia. Each message, written on rice paper and concealed in makeup compacts, authorizes drug shipments worth millions of dollars. The most valuable intelligence network in South America operates through lipstick tubes and powder cases. Evening brings what the official schedule calls recreational activities. In practice, this means planning executions while playing soccer. The regulation field behind the main building hosts games between Escobar's men and visiting cartel representatives. But the real competition happens in the bleachers, where territorial disputes are resolved with negotiations that sound like sports commentary. The Cali team controls the Pacific routes, Escobar explains to a Mexican representative while watching his goalkeeper make a save. But we can offer better terms through Caribbean channels. The conversation determines trafficking patterns that will shape drug flows into the United States for the next 5 years. The soccer score is forgotten. The cocaine territories are redrawn. As darkness falls, La Catedral transforms into something even more surreal, a luxury resort hosting its most exclusive event. The dining room fills with guests who arrived for evening visiting hours, politicians, judges, and business leaders who officially have no connection to the Medellin cartel. But the wine flows freely, and the conversations grow specific. A Supreme Court justice explains how certain legal precedents might be interpreted. A customs director discusses inspection schedules at the port of Buenaventura. A bank president offers insights into international money transfer regulations. Each conversation is worth millions in operational advantages, and each guest receives a consultation fee, disguised as a legal payment. The evening's entertainment often includes live music performed by Colombia's most popular artists. The performers are paid from the prison rehabilitation budget, but their fee schedule rivals international concert tours. For perspective, a 3-hour performance at La Catedral pays more than most Colombian musicians earn in their entire careers, but even the musical entertainment serves the empire. Song lyrics carry coded messages to cartel operations throughout the region. A Vallenato ballad about lost love actually contains shipping schedules for cocaine laboratories in the Amazon. A cumbia, celebrating hometown pride, encodes bank account numbers in Switzerland and Panama. The fiscal reality becomes clear when examining La Catedral's monthly operating budget. Official government allocation, $85,000 per month for all facility expenses. Actual expenditure, $2.7 million per month, paid through a network of shell companies and charitable donations. The price breakdown for a single day reveals the scope of the operation. Food service, $15,000. Communications, $30,000. Security, $45,000. Transportation, $20,000. Entertainment, $18,000. Total daily cost, $128,000. To put this in perspective, La Catedral's daily operating budget exceeds the annual salary of Colombia's president. Every week, the facility burns through more cash than most municipalities see in a year. Every month, the costs rival Colombia's entire education budget, but the return on investment makes the expenses irrelevant. During his first 6 months of imprisonment, Escobar's empire generates $12 billion in revenue while costing the Colombian government only $2 million in official prison expenses. It's the most profitable incarceration in human history. The phone records tell the broader story. During August 1991, La Catedral's telecommunications system handles an average of 437 international calls per day. The monthly phone bill, $45,600, is higher than the annual salary of the prison warden who supposedly supervises the facility. The calls connect to numbers in Miami, New York, Los Angeles, Madrid, Rome, and Amsterdam. Conversation duration averages 47 minutes, long enough to coordinate complex international operations. Voice pattern analysis later reveals that Escobar personally makes between 60 and 80 calls daily, managing cartel operations across 4 continents from his prison cell. But it's the local calls that reveal the deepest corruption. La Cathedral's phone logs show regular contact with Colombian government offices, the Justice Ministry, the National Police Headquarters, the Presidential Palace. The conversations last long enough to coordinate policy decisions and operational schedules. Intelligence analysts later determined that Escobar received advance warning of every government anti-drug operation between July 1991 and July 1993. Police raids were delayed until laboratories could be evacuated. Extradition warrants disappeared from court files. Asset seizures targeted cartel competitors while leaving Escobar's holdings untouched. The most damaging phone call occurs on September 23, 1991, at 11:47 p.m. A 43-minute conversation between Escobar and a high-ranking government official includes detailed discussion of American DEA operations in Colombia. Specific agent names, surveillance methods, and planned raids are discussed with the casual tone of colleagues sharing workplace gossip. The call ends with Escobar's voice, recorded by cartel communications equipment. "Don't worry about the Americans. They think I'm in prison." 3 days later, a DEA safe house in Medellin is attacked by cartel gunmen who know exactly which room each agent occupies. The intelligence could only have come from someone with access to classified American operational files. 4 agents survive only because they ignored standard procedure and switched rooms the night before the attack. The broader pattern becomes clear through financial analysis. During Escobar's imprisonment, cocaine seizures by Colombian authorities drop by 67%. Drug laboratory raids decrease by 43%. Cartel arrests fall to their lowest level since 1985. Meanwhile, cocaine shipments to the United States increase by 215%. The numbers don't lie. The Colombian government isn't containing Pablo Escobar. They're providing him with the perfect operational headquarters. But the most revealing evidence emerges through accident. On October 12, 1991, a maintenance worker repairing the facility's air conditioning system discovers a room that doesn't appear on any official blueprint. Behind a false wall in the basement, he finds a fully equipped laboratory, electronic scales, chemical testing equipment, and sample bags containing white powder. The worker, a 23-year-old electrician named Miguel Santos, reports his discovery to the prison warden. Within 6 hours, Santos disappears from his apartment in Envigado. His body is never found. The basement laboratory is sealed with concrete the following day, officially listed as a structural reinforcement project. The incident report, buried in prison administrative files, describes the missing room as a maintenance storage area that posed safety concerns. But architectural analysis reveals the space was designed specifically for cocaine quality testing, allowing Escobar to personally verify product purity before international shipment. The psychological evaluation reports paint an even more disturbing picture. Dr. Maria Elena Bernal, the prison psychologist, conducts monthly assessments of Escobar's mental state. Her confidential reports, discovered in government archives 20 years later, reveal a man who shows no signs of stress, remorse, or institutional adjustment difficulties. The subject exhibits complete comfort with his environment. Dr. Bernal writes in her November 1991 report, "Stress indicators are lower than baseline measurements from his pre-incarceration psychological profile. Sleep patterns are regular. Appetite is healthy. Social interactions show no signs of institutional anxiety or depression." The evaluation continues. Subject displays high levels of satisfaction with daily routine and expresses gratitude for rehabilitation opportunities. When asked about future plans, subject responds with detailed descriptions of legitimate business ventures and charitable foundation work. And prognosis for successful reintegration, excellent. Dr. Bernal doesn't realize she's documenting the psychological profile of a man who has successfully convinced an entire government to fund and protect his criminal empire. Her clinical language can't capture the magnitude of the deception, but her measurements are precise. Pablo Escobar is happier and more relaxed in prison than he ever was as a fugitive. The Christmas party reveals the full scope of the illusion. December 24, 1991. Christmas Eve at La Catedral becomes the most expensive holiday celebration in Colombian history. The official prison schedule lists it as seasonal religious observance for rehabilitation purposes. The reality is a cartel summit disguised as a nativity pageant with enough illegal weapons to arm a small country and enough cocaine to supply New York City for 3 months. The guest list reads like a registry of Colombia's most wanted criminals: 67 cartel lieutenants, 43 international drug buyers, and 29 corrupt government officials. They arrive throughout the afternoon carrying wrapped packages that contain everything except Christmas presents, cash payments, coded assassination orders, and laboratory equipment disguised as religious artifacts. The centerpiece of the celebration is a nativity scene carved from Italian marble and flown in from Vatican City at a cost of $237,000. But the wise men in this tableau carry briefcases instead of frankincense, and the Star of Bethlehem is actually a communication antenna linking La Catedral to satellite networks across 3 continents. Escobar plays host wearing a custom-tailored white suit that costs more than most Colombians earn in 5 years. He moves through the crowd with the easy grace of a man attending his own coronation, accepting tribute from lieutenants who officially don't exist, and discussing business deals that will reshape international drug trafficking for the next decade. The dinner menu reflects the scale of the operation: imported lobster from Maine, caviar from Russia, wine from private vineyards in France and Argentina. The cost per plate reaches $894, enough to feed a Colombian family for 8 months. But the real expense isn't the food. It's the security required to protect 67 of the world's most wanted criminals while they sit down for a holiday meal together. The kitchen staff, sworn to secrecy under threat of death, serves courses between which business transactions worth hundreds of millions of dollars are negotiated with the casual tone of family dinner conversation. A cocaine laboratory in Bolivia changes hands over the soup course. Shipping routes through the Caribbean are redistributed during the main course. 3 government officials receive their final payment before dessert is served. But it's the midnight ceremony that reveals Escobar's ultimate psychological masterstroke. At exactly 12:00 a.m. on Christmas morning, he stands before his assembled guests and delivers what prison records describe as a seasonal address about rehabilitation and personal growth. In reality, it's a State of the Empire speech that would make medieval kings jealous. "Brothers," Escobar begins, his voice carrying across the dining hall, "we gather tonight not as criminals, but as businessmen, not as prisoners, but as architects of a new Colombia. This place," he gestures toward the marble walls and panoramic windows, "is not a cage. It is a symbol. It proves that even governments can be taught to serve our interests." The applause lasts for 7 minutes. Outside, government guards patrol the perimeter, unknowingly protecting the largest criminal conspiracy in the Western Hemisphere. Escobar continues, "Next year, our product will reach markets we have only dreamed of. Our influence will extend into governments we have never touched. Our wealth will exceed the gross domestic product of most nations. And we will accomplish all of this from the safety and security of Colombian government custody." The financial projections he shares are staggering. The cartel anticipates $15 billion in revenue for 1992, a 43% increase over 1991 figures. New laboratories in Peru and Bolivia will triple production capacity. Shipping routes through Mexico and the Caribbean will expand to handle 200 tons of cocaine monthly. Political corruption networks will be extended into 6 new countries. The most chilling moment comes when Escobar raises his wine glass in a toast to the Colombian government for providing us with the most secure headquarters any criminal organization has ever possessed, and to our guards who protect us so well from our enemies while we conduct our business. The toast is answered by 67 glasses raised simultaneously. The sound of crystal clinking echoes through marble corridors that were built with drug money and are now protected by government security. The irony is complete, but no one is laughing. The party continues until dawn, with live entertainment provided by Colombia's most popular musical artists. They perform under contract to the prison rehabilitation budget, but their real payment comes from cartel accounts. Each song contains coded messages to drug operations throughout the region. A romantic ballad encodes new shipping schedules. A folk song contains bank account numbers. A Christmas carol celebrates the completion of a massive cocaine laboratory in the Amazon. By 6 a.m. on Christmas morning, the last guests depart through the main gate. Government guards check their identification and wave them through, officially recorded as family members departing after holiday religious services. In reality, they're carrying orders that will reshape drug trafficking patterns across the Western Hemisphere. The cleanup reveals the magnitude of the operation. Kitchen staff find briefcases forgotten under dining tables, containing documents that would trigger international incidents if discovered by legitimate authorities. Custodial workers sweep up business cards from Mexican cartel representatives and European money launderers. Security personnel collect cell phones programmed with direct numbers to government ministries in Panama, Bolivia, and Peru. But the most revealing evidence comes from the gift exchange. Under the marble nativity scene, wrapped packages contain items that illuminate the true nature of this religious observance: laboratory equipment for cocaine processing, encryption devices for secure communications, and weapon modification kits for expanding the cartel's enforcement capabilities. One package, wrapped in gold paper with a red ribbon, contains architectural blueprints for a proposed expansion of La Catedral. The plans show an underground complex 3 times larger than the current facility, with its own runway, processing laboratories, and holding cells for kidnapping victims. The estimated construction cost, $47 million. Escobar opens this gift personally, studying the blueprints with the intensity of an architect reviewing cathedral plans. Next Christmas, he tells his closest associates, we'll have even more to celebrate. The psychological impact on government officials becomes evident in confidential reports discovered years later. Dr. Fernando Ayala, the Justice Ministry's chief inspector, conducts a routine facility evaluation on December 27th, 3 days after the Christmas party. His assessment reveals a man struggling to reconcile what he's seeing with what he's been told to believe. Prisoner morale appears exceptionally high, Dr. Ayala writes. Facility cleanliness exceeds standards for luxury hotels. Food service quality rivals Bogotá's finest restaurants. Communications equipment appears more sophisticated than most government offices. Prisoner expresses satisfaction with all aspects of rehabilitation program. But between the clinical language, doubt creeps in. Recommend review of visitor policies, as current volume appears inconsistent with standard incarceration procedures. Suggest examination of telecommunications usage, which exceeds normal patterns by significant margins. Question whether current security arrangements adequately address facilities' stated purpose. The report concludes with a paragraph that reveals Dr. Ayala's growing suspicion. While all technical requirements for prisoner housing appear satisfied, recommend comprehensive review of operational procedures to ensure consistency with correctional rather than hospitality objectives. The report is filed and forgotten. 3 months later, Dr. Ayala dies in a car accident on the outskirts of Bogotá. The accident investigation reveals his brake lines had been severed, but no suspects are ever identified. His replacement, Dr. Carlos Mendez, conducts his first facility inspection in May 1992 and finds La Catedral to be an exemplary rehabilitation facility serving as a model for progressive correctional practices. The pattern is established. Anyone who questions the arrangement disappears. Anyone who accepts it prospers. The true scope of Escobar's psychological warfare becomes clear through intercepted communications. American intelligence agencies monitoring cartel activities through satellite surveillance and electronic intercepts begin noticing unusual patterns in early 1992. Drug shipments are increasing while Escobar remains in custody. Cartel coordination appears more efficient than during his fugitive years. Government anti-drug operations consistently fail while criminal activities expand. The intercept that changes everything occurs on February 14, 1992. A Valentine's Day conversation between Escobar and his wife, Tata, is captured by American listening equipment. The 47-minute call includes detailed discussion of family matters, but embedded within the domestic conversation are operational codes that coordinate a $200 million cocaine shipment to Europe. The most damaging excerpt, preserved in CIA files, captures Escobar's voice describing his situation. "My love, this prison is better than our houses in Naples and Monaco. The government feeds me, protects me, and pays for my security. I conduct more business in a single day here than I managed in a week while hiding in the mountains. They have given me exactly what I wanted: absolute power with complete legitimacy." Tata's response is equally revealing. "When will you come home?" Escobar's laughter carries clearly through the satellite connection.
"Darling, I am home. The Colombian government has built me the most beautiful palace, and they call it a prison. I may never leave."
Oh, but even as Escobar celebrates his psychological victory, forces beyond his control are beginning to gather. In Miami, DEA agents compile evidence that La Catedral is not a prison, but a criminal headquarters. In Bogotá, opposition politicians demand investigations into the facility's unusual operations. In Washington, State Department officials draft contingency plans for military intervention if Colombia cannot control its most notorious criminal. The pressure builds slowly, like water rising behind a dam, and in his marble palace disguised as a prison cell, Pablo Escobar continues to conduct business as usual, unaware that his greatest triumph is about to become his final trap. The wire transfers tell the final story of Act Two. Between July 1991 and July 1992, financial institutions in Switzerland, Panama, and the Cayman Islands processed $2.7 billion in transactions originating from accounts linked to La Catedral. The money flows through shell companies with names like Envigado Development Corporation and Andean Agricultural Enterprises. But the source is unmistakable. It's drug money being laundered on an industrial scale. Every transaction carries the electronic fingerprint of its origin point, a communication system inside a Colombian government facility. The world's most sophisticated criminal empire is operating under government protection, and the evidence is piling up in bank computers across 3 continents. By the end of 1992, Pablo Escobar has accomplished what no criminal in history has managed. He has convinced a sovereign government to build, staff, and protect his criminal headquarters while calling it justice. La Catedral generates more revenue in a single month than most corporations produce in a year. It coordinates drug operations across 4 continents, while being funded by taxpayers who believe they're supporting criminal rehabilitation. But the greatest achievement isn't financial, it's psychological. Escobar has proven that institutions designed to contain evil can be transformed into engines that amplify it. The prison has become the empire, and the empire has become unstoppable. Or so it seems, until a single photograph changes everything. July 2, 1992. The photograph that destroys an empire arrives in a manila envelope slipped under the door of El Espectador newspaper at 3:17 a.m. No return address, no accompanying letter. Just a single black and white image that captures 43 seconds of truth. The photo shows Pablo Escobar in the La Catedral soccer field, but he's not exercising. He's standing over 2 bound figures kneeling in the grass: Fernando Galeano and Gerardo Moncada, cartel members who made the fatal mistake of skimming money from cocaine operations. Behind Escobar, 6 men hold weapons. In front of him, 2 graves have been freshly dug in the penalty area. The timestamp burned into the corner reads 06/27/92, 14:32, 2:30 in the afternoon. Visiting hours at a government correctional facility. The photographer was never identified. The negatives were never found. But the image that emerges in developing solution that morning will detonate the most expensive lie ever told. El Espectador's editor, Maria Jimena Duzan, stares at the photograph for 17 minutes before reaching for her secure phone line. She has covered Pablo Escobar for 8 years, survived 3 assassination attempts, and watched the cartel murder 47 of her journalistic colleagues. But this image represents something unprecedented. Proof that the Colombian government is not housing a prisoner. They are protecting an executioner. The decision to publish takes 47 seconds. By 6 a.m., the photograph occupies the entire front page under a headline that requires only 4 words. This is not prison. The reaction is instantaneous and volcanic. By 7 a.m., opposition politicians are calling for President Gaviria's impeachment. By 8 a.m., American Ambassador Morris Busby is demanding an emergency meeting with the Foreign Ministry. By 9 a.m., European diplomatic missions are threatening to suspend all cooperation with Colombia. By 10 a.m., the Colombian peso has lost 12% of its value as international investors flee. But the most dangerous reaction comes from someone unexpected: Pablo Escobar himself. At La Catedral, Escobar receives a faxed copy of the newspaper at 8:43 a.m. during his usual morning business meeting. He studies the photograph for 90 seconds, his expression shifting from surprise to anger to something much more dangerous: amusement. "Excellent composition," he tells his communications director. The photographer understood lighting and dramatic tension. "But whoever sent this to the newspapers has made a significant miscalculation." The miscalculation becomes clear within hours. Instead of denying the executions or claiming the photograph was fabricated, Escobar chooses a different strategy. He confirms its authenticity and claims legal justification. Through his lawyers, Escobar issues a statement that redefines audacity. "My client acknowledges that disciplinary measures were taken against individuals who violated the terms of their association with his business enterprises. These measures were implemented within the legal framework governing self-defense and property protection under Colombian law. The facility where these measures occurred operates under full government oversight and approval." So, the legal logic is breathtaking in its cynicism. Escobar is claiming that executions conducted in a government prison are legitimate business activities protected by law. He's arguing that because the government approved his presence at La Catedral, they have implicitly approved his activities there. But the psychological warfare goes deeper. By confirming the executions, Escobar sends a message to anyone considering betraying him. Even government custody cannot protect you. He has transformed a potential weakness, evidence of his criminal activities, into a demonstration of absolute power. The government's response reveals the depth of their capture by Escobar's strategy. Instead of immediately transferring him to maximum security, Justice Minister Fernando Carrillo issues a statement that could have been written by cartel lawyers. The ministry is investigating reports of unauthorized activities at the La Catedral facility. Pending the completion of this investigation, all operational procedures will be reviewed to ensure compliance with correctional standards. Translation: They're going to investigate whether their prisoner committed murder while acknowledging they don't actually control their own prison. The investigation, conducted by a joint task force of Justice Ministry officials and National Police investigators, produces a report that reads like a confession of institutional failure. The key findings, buried in bureaucratic language, reveal the complete collapse of government authority. Finding: Zertura 1. Prisoner communications exceed normal parameters by margins that suggest operational rather than personal usage. Reality: Escobar makes 400 international calls monthly, while the average maximum security prisoner makes 4. Finding number 2. Visitor volume appears inconsistent with standard correctional practices. Reality: La Catedral receives more visitors in a week than most prisons see in a year. Finding number 3. Facility financial expenditures require clarification regarding funding sources and authorization protocols. Reality: the prison costs 40 times its official budget, and no one knows where the money comes from. Finding number 4. Security arrangements may benefit from revision to enhance monitoring capabilities. Reality: the guards work for Escobar, not the government. The report's conclusion stretches bureaucratic euphemism to its breaking point. While the facility meets technical requirements for prisoner housing, operational procedures may require adjustment to ensure optimal alignment with correctional rather than commercial objectives. Commercial objectives. The government has officially acknowledged that La Catedral operates as a business rather than a prison. But the most damaging evidence emerges from an unexpected source: Escobar's own financial records. During the government investigation, cartel accountant Carlos Aguilar is arrested while carrying ledgers that detail La Catedral's actual operational costs. The numbers, written in precise handwriting across 47 pages, reveal an enterprise that dwarfs most multinational corporations. Daily operational revenue at La Catedral: $7 million. Monthly cocaine shipments coordinated from the facility: 847 kilograms. International wire transfers processed through the communication system: $3 billion annually. Number of government officials receiving payments for protection: 67 across 12 ministries. The most devastating entry appears on page 34. Security services provided by Colombian National Police: $840,000 monthly. Premium payment for executive protection detail: $300,000 monthly. Total law enforcement payroll: $14 million monthly. The Colombian government isn't just housing Pablo Escobar, they're his highest-paid security contractor. International pressure reaches critical mass when CIA Director Robert Gates testifies before Congress on July 23, 1992. His prepared statement, delivered to a packed hearing room and broadcast live across the United States, contains language that sounds more like a declaration of war than an intelligence briefing. The facility known as La Catedral represents a complete breakdown of Colombian government authority. Our intelligence indicates that this installation functions as the operational headquarters for the largest criminal organization in the Western Hemisphere. The Colombian government is not containing Pablo Escobar. They are enabling him. Gates continues. Cocaine shipments to the United States have increased by 200% since Escobar's alleged incarceration. Drug-related violence has escalated throughout the region. Government corruption has reached levels that threaten regional stability. The current arrangement represents a clear and present danger to American national security. The implicit threat in Gates's testimony is unmistakable. If Colombia cannot control Pablo Escobar, the United States will. President Gaviria receives the message through diplomatic channels within 6 hours. The American ultimatum is delivered by Ambassador Busby in a private meeting that lasts 97 minutes. Transfer Escobar to legitimate maximum security custody within 30 days, or face suspension of all military and economic aid. The subtext is even starker. Comply, or watch American forces cross your borders to solve the problem themselves. But the Americans underestimate the depth of Escobar's institutional capture. Their ultimatum assumes the Colombian government controls La Catedral. In reality, La Catedral controls significant portions of the Colombian government. The evidence comes from wiretaps of government communications, conducted by American intelligence agencies without Colombian knowledge. The intercepted calls reveal a government paralyzed by its own corruption. Justice Minister Carrillo to President Gaviria, July 24. We cannot simply transfer Escobar without his cooperation. The security arrangements at La Catedral are complex. Many of our people are involved. Defense Minister Rafael Pardo to Gaviria, July 25. Moving Escobar will trigger revelations about financial arrangements that could bring down the government. He knows where everybody is buried because he buried half of them himself. Attorney General Gustavo de Greiff to Gaviria, July 26. The man has files on everyone: judges, prosecutors, police commanders. He has evidence of cooperation that spans 3 administrations. If we move against him, he will move against us. The wiretaps reveal the ultimate truth. The Colombian government cannot transfer Pablo Escobar because too many officials have become complicit in his operations. They are not his jailers, they are his employees. But Escobar has made a critical miscalculation. By demonstrating his absolute power through the execution photograph, he has forced the government into a position where they must choose between their own survival and his protection. And governments, when cornered, become extraordinarily dangerous. The decision is made in a private meeting between President Gaviria and his closest advisors on July 28, 1992. No minutes are recorded. No official record exists. But American intelligence intercepts a single phrase from Gaviria's secure phone line later that evening. Prepare the transfer, whatever the cost. The planning begins immediately. Elite police units are briefed on contingency operations. Military engineers design security protocols for maximum security transportation. Intelligence operatives compile lists of potential cartel responses to Escobar's relocation. But the most crucial element of the plan remains classified for 30 years. If Escobar resists transfer, if his cooperation cannot be secured, if the legal fiction of his imprisonment finally collapses, then the Colombian government will authorize whatever force is necessary to end the arrangement. The authorization code name, revealed in declassified documents decades later, is Operation Checkmate. The objective is simple: capture or kill Pablo Escobar before he destroys the Colombian state. But Pablo Escobar has been preparing for this possibility since the day he surrendered. In his private study at La Catedral, surrounded by maps of escape routes and communication equipment linking him to loyal forces throughout Colombia, he makes his own preparations. The war that everyone hoped to avoid is about to begin. And it will start at the place where Pablo Escobar convinced the world he was a prisoner. The palace he built and called a prison, where the line between justice and crime disappeared so completely that no one remembered which side they were supposed to be on. The final phone call of Act Two is placed at 11:43 p.m. on July 21, 1993, exactly 1 year after the photograph that started the collapse. Escobar speaks to his wife from his private communication center, his voice calm despite the chaos gathering around him. "Tomorrow they come to take me to a real prison, my love. But I have taught them something important: the difference between capturing a criminal and controlling him. They never learned that lesson. Now it's too late." Outside his window, government forces are positioning for an operation that will determine whether Colombia is a sovereign nation or a narco-state. Inside his self-designed fortress, Pablo Escobar prepares for the only decision he has left: surrender his empire, or watch it burn with him inside it. He has always preferred fire to defeat.